Disclaimer. At Two Addicts and a Moron, we discuss personal stories of addiction with the intention of being educational, relatable, and inspirational. The views and experiences shared are those of individuals involved, are not meant to glorify or condone any illegal or harmful behavior. This content is for educational purposes only and is not intended as professional advice. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, we strongly encourage you seek help from a qualified professional or support service. Episode 52 of Two Addicts and a Moron is getting kicked off. I'm bringing the numbers back. I've made up my mind. We're bringing it back. I skipped because we were just getting too carried away. I was missing numbers, and I was like, I'm not saying numbers anymore. But we're on 52, which means it is our birthday, everybody. Two Addicts and a Moron turned 1 year old today.
Hey.
Yay.
Who would have ever thought?
And you know what? We're walking around, but we still shit in our diapers because we don't know what we're doing still. We still just show up here and we do it. So
somebody messaged me today and says, "Hey, do y'all do this and this?" I said, "Bro, I don't know. We just film and we throw money at it.
Yeah,
that's what we do. We film and throw, and we hope for the best."
Yeah.
When your assistant sent me the little Google Calendar, I was blown away. I was like, "Oh my God, you got to teach me how to do that,
dude." Yeah,
you got to teach me how to do that.
Yeah,
no, I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
You are the only person that's been on the podcast that is in my calendar, because that's it. Everybody else is just, we write it down on a piece of paper or text each other.
Whatever. Hey, as long as you show up to the right place at the right time, that's what matters. But we're about systems. Yeah, there's ways to do it.
Well, look, I am super excited about this one because it's so much different than any other podcast that we've ever done in the history. And it's talking about porn addiction. And I can't wait to get it. This one fascinates me on so many different levels. So I can't wait to pepper you with questions on this.
Here we go.
So,
let's talk about.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Sathiya is in the building.
Let's go.
Hey.
Thank you, gents.
Yes.
Great to be here.
So I always start this. So DOC was porn, I guess?
Yeah. That's that. I mean, that was my shtick. No drugs, no alcohol. It was pornography.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Look, that's why I'm so fascinated because I touched on it a little bit earlier, but we tried to talk about porn addiction very early, excuse me, in our podcast.
Yeah.
But I've discovered through talking about that, I thought that their porn addictions were drug induced.
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of came back to the drug, right? It kind of went back there and it got a little clunky and it got a little weird and not a lot of people watch that one. Yeah. So I'm really excited to have you on to talk way more intelligently about this. You wrote a book about it.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
What's your book called, man?
Book's called The Last Relapse. It's basically my system for how I help guys quit porn. I was a university researcher. And so, you know, when we were starting to help people, we saw like, man, this is good stuff. Not everybody can afford to do coaching or whatever. So the book was just trying to make it more accessible. And I actually give away the book for free now. If people want a copy, they can just DM me on Instagram. Just DM me book and I'll send you a free copy.
Wow.
Yeah. What's your Instagram?
Sathiya Me Sam.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the handles. Yep. So if people want to check it out, they can get it there. But that's the whole system for recovery. And actually, I've had people go through it with food addictions. I wouldn't say drug addictions, maybe some like dependencies or bad habit kind of thing. And had great results from that as well, actually, because it's very principled in its approach.
So that's what I was just about to ask. So you do you feel like you can kind of remove one? I mean, obviously with drugs, there's a physical dependency there.
Yeah.
For a lot of them, all of them, right? Like alcohol, drugs.
Yeah.
And then that's a whole nother process that has to be gone through.
Yeah.
But as far as the mentality and breaking habits and stuff, do you find that the actual habit itself is pretty much the same?
Like the process for getting out of it?
Yeah.
It's similar in some ways and it's different in others. So like drugs and alcohol are what they call substance addictions, right? Like it's the specifically the chemical.
Yeah.
Porn addiction's in a different category. They call it process addiction. So the same categories like video games, gambling. You can really be addicted to anything. Like we're all kind of addicted to our phones now.
Yeah.
Like that's a process addiction, right?
Sure.
So it's a lot more behaviorally. It's less like you can't give somebody pharmaceuticals and try to kind of get them off of the drug that they're addicted, or the pornography they're addicted to.
Right.
It just doesn't really work the same way. It's a lot more about curbing the behaviors, figuring out where the behaviors are coming from, which is usually like thinking patterns, belief systems. There's trauma still at play, childhood stuff. So all of those factors are at play. And I think the reason the book could help someone beyond pornography addiction is because of that. We have 3 steps. It's build self-awareness, heal your heart, shift your identity. And so you kind of get that, like, that can be applicable to so many different things you're trying to change and alter. So,
right.
Yeah.
And and I found this at AA meetings, you read the 12 steps, I've gone to AA meetings, and it's like, man, all of that just looks so easy. And then you read through it again and you're like, dude, that's some work there. That is some.
Yeah. If you actually do it.
Yeah. If you're actually doing that work. Yeah. So those 3 things that you just said, very simple in principle.
Yeah.
But
yeah, they're work.
Their work.
Yeah.
Like those are some hard work. So I've really taken that in right now too. That's,
Well, and I think with pornography addiction, like socially, like people are very mixed on it. Even actually researchers are very mixed on, like, is it a legitimate addiction and whatever else. So I think because people sometimes trivialize it, then they think like, oh, it can be that hard to quit.
Yeah.
Like, could you really be addicted to that?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can be. And yeah, the work is for real if you want to get out of it.
I think that's what a lot of people think. Like people that don't have the addiction.
Yeah.
It's amazing that people have that addiction to them. Right.
Right.
Like when I was a drug addict, people that aren't a drug addict, it's like, well, just quit.
Yeah.
Or it's like, how can you be like, I used to always think my addiction was way worse than everybody else's. So alcoholics was somebody that I used to always judge because I'm like, it's not really, it's alcohol, right? Like I've never been an alcoholic. And even still, like, I don't ever identify as an alcoholic. So to me, it was always like, how can you just not put it down? But then I realized I have the same thinking that people used to think towards me. Why can't you just stop smoking meth? Why can't you just stop watching porn? Right?
Yeah.
And I realized like, oh, you can have an addiction towards really anything, like you said.
Yes.
I mean, you can have an addiction towards vaping, right?
Yeah,
Still an addiction. You
deal.
can have an addiction towards eating food.
Yeah.
And we all have some kind of addiction, just some of our addictions.
They're more socially acceptable, less damaging.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, you're just not going to watch porn in a group of people. Just hey, come watch this with me.
Or maybe
some people are into that.
That's a thing.
That's P. Diddy parties.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of addiction.
There's a different deal altogether. That's a sociopath stuff.
Well, although to be honest, like, having been in this space for a long time now, people, if you watch enough pornography, especially mainstream pornography today, is so aggressive, violent, very intense. Actually, again, Diddy, obviously an extreme example.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised at how many people end up there because of pornography.
Yeah.
Because what they see on the screen is no longer doing it. So they start to seek out, you start to push that line, right?
Fantasies.
Yeah.
Right?
Fantasies, but then you can start to live out your fantasies, especially in today's world.
Especially when you have the resources to do it.
Yeah, 100%.
When we did our episode about porn addiction, it obviously YouTube didn't let us put any ads on it.
Yeah, right.
So, but right after that, what's the guy from the Nuggets? Michael Porter. He played for the Nuggets. I think he's still playing. Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
He did a podcast right after ours, and he was talking about what he has seen just in his time as far as being a celebrity and being in the NBA. And he said, what's crazy is people that have, like, when I was growing up, you watched HBO and Showtime and you seen like maybe a girl's titties, right?
Yep.
You never seen any bush or anything like that,
No,
right? They didn't
no.
show. And then maybe as you got through it, then maybe on Cinemax you got to see a full frontal, right?
Yeah.
But then when porn started coming out, well, then you got to see more, right? And then you got to start seeing a guy with 2 girls, a guy with 3 girls. Then all of a sudden you started seeing girls with girls, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the one-on-one sex to you, in my opinion, when I was watching porn, it wasn't fun for me anymore because it was like, well, I can watch 3 girls at once, or I can watch a whole
all that
orgy,
stuff, the other stuff's
whatever,
vanilla, right?
all of it.
Yeah.
But he was talking about when people that have a lot of money and a lot of resources, that one-on-one isn't fun for them anymore. And maybe drugs are involved. They probably are. Let's be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
But he said, they have the resources to pay and say, look, do this for me, do this for me, do this for me. And then you start going opposite sex or same sex.
Yeah.
And then you start doing like tranny porn and stuff like that,
Yes.
right? And then
Yeah.
all these, you start raising the bar, and I'm not talking bad about anything, but you start raising the bar, and then just regular sex just isn't fun to you anymore.
100%.
And that's when people start having dysfunction. What is it?
Erectile dysfunction?
Erectile dysfunction, because
Yeah.
it's just not fun for me anymore. I want to see the shit that I've been watching.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That, man, a lot of interesting points there. But we have so many clients that are heterosexual men. They're married, they're kids, and they watch gay porn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's exactly that. It's just all the stuff that they grew up watching doesn't cut it. And so, you cross the line here, you cross the line there, you try this. Your brain keeps seeking novelty, right?
Right.
And that novelty enhances the pleasure for the moment. Eventually it fades. This story's been told quite a bit. Do you guys know who Ted Bundy is?
Yeah.
Okay. Ted Bundy, right before he got executed, he had like 1,000 media requests.
Yeah.
He only took one of them. It was with a guy named Dr. James Dobson. And Dobson asked him just point blank, what do you attribute the biggest contributing factor to your life ending up the way it wound up? And he didn't even bat an eyelash. He said pornography.
Really?
Hands down. And he said everybody in my prison, like his maximum security prison, he said they'll all tell you the same thing. Pornography is where it all started. And then it just, it was before internet with him, but like pornography didn't cut it. You start seeking out the thrill other ways. And eventually, like, he got his thrill from doing completely morbid things.
Right.
Very extreme example, but that's what happens to all of our brains, actually, and especially when you're getting addicted to something, it's like you will continually push that bound as much as you
that
possibly
envelope.
can. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. As much as you can.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. How do you feel like your addiction started?
Man, it's a great question. You guys will appreciate this. I grew up very conservative, churched. My dad was a pastor, that kind of deal. Everybody's got that story of where you got exposed to pornography first, right?
Yeah.
First time, right? Usually it's like an uncle, it's a sibling. Dude, I got exposed to pornography in the computer lab of my Christian school.
Whoa.
I was 11 years old. Yeah, guy came up to me and said, "Yo, check out this site." Very innocent sounding, and that was how it all started for me. And it wasn't like, oh, I saw it and I knew I was going to be addicted.
Yeah.
I was actually pre-puberty. I was like 10 and a half, 11 years old. It just planted a little seed. And then, when I did hit puberty, I remembered the site. So I started going back to it.
Yeah.
This is in the days of like the one family computer, So
Yeah.
I would wait till my parents were away or they're at sleep, and then I would, go and watch. Like, I had to kind of plan around it. But yeah, high school, I watched a lot of it. In university, so I was very academic, really brainy, skipped a grade, went straight to university when I was 16, that kind of deal. So porn was like kind of my vice. Like, again, it sounds silly if you don't understand it, but the same way that people would use alcohol to cope or drugs, porn was my thing, and I would plan my days around it, think about what I was going to watch and had it all kind of scheduled out. Like, that was just, it just became a part of my life. It helped me function with the academic pressures and the cares of life and everything that came with it.
Wow. I mean, and at what point from that first time to being in college did you realize that, like, I've got a problem here?
Yeah. Well, like any good addict, I told myself I could quit whenever I want.
Yeah, of course.
And I really believed it. And then that time came. So there were two things that I was pretty sure would force me to quit. Meeting a girl and or career. Like, if I started to, develop professionally, probably not a good thing to have around.
Right.
So that time came. I finished university. I was ready to start working. I had kind of like drifted in and out of faith, even though I grew up in the church. But I was starting to take that more seriously. And so I just felt like, okay, it's time to quit. Enough things came together, and I went like 3 days. That's when I was like, that's interesting. Because I've had other like challenges in my life or bad habits where I just had enough willpower to fight it.
Right.
So I was positive I had enough willpower for this as well.
Right.
And that was the first thing that kind of caught my attention. Then I tried again, and it was like I could go a few more days, maybe a week, but like I just got caught in these cycles, and that's when I realized, like, okay, this has way deeper hooks than I realized.
Well, man, just listening to you and then so many of the other people that we have on, it's a similar
story,
It's a
right?
very similar tale.
Yeah.
I mean, and when they figure out that the hooks are in, it's like, man,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep doing this.
Yeah.
Was
You're
it
like-
scary for you when you realized?
No.
No.
I didn't realize the severity of it. You know, like it is a little bit scary to realize, okay, I don't have as much control over this as I think I do. But I was still naive to like the downstream effects, like the erectile dysfunction you were talking about. You know, we have I worked with a client recently who's on his 4th marriage, I think, and he lost the other 3 because of his porn addiction. So I didn't realize the road I was on. Like I was kind of oblivious in that sense. So I was kind of too dumb to be afraid.
It probably wasn't something that was really talked about yet, right?
No. In fact, even when I started my practice back in 2018, people were like, dude, good luck. Like,
Yeah.
what is that a thing? You know?
Yeah.
But the last couple of years, like I don't know if you guys know who Jordan Peterson is, Dr. Huberman, right? Those guys are like talking about it quite a bit. So I think the world is starting to wake up a bit. Like, okay, this is more serious than we thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went through that journey. 2010, I think 2011, somewhere around there is when it kind of started for me.
But it takes somebody like yourself or like us doing this, to get out in front of something and like, hey man, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it as a serious issue.
Yeah.
Because it can be.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't get on podcasts, and I've been on national TV promoting my book and stuff. I don't really do that because I want to be the guy for porn. You know what I mean? Like one of my friends still tells, because I used to work in churches, right? So one of my guys he still tells all of, he's like, have you heard about Sathiya? Like he left the church for porn, like, like you can spin things quickly. But the point is, I just know how valuable it is. Because when I was struggling, I was looking for somebody who was talking about this stuff, who could give me practicals, who had the story of figuring it out and working through it. So I'm just trying to be that guy that I wish was there for me when I was struggling.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I mean, it's great. And I'm starting to think about like when I was a kid, the internet, I'm 44.
Yeah.
So the internet wasn't a thing.
True.
So like fighting to find porn
it was
a
work.
thing.
It
Like,
was
I
work.
mean, you had to like go to your friend's house who
get the dad's stack of Playboys
like they're
in
at
the
work
back.
and
The VCR tapes.
Then the VCR tapes,
which was all, I mean, I'm thinking about it. I didn't have the same opportunity to be as neurotic about it
No, you
as
You
somebody
have to take what you could get.
Yeah, now Bill Burr, he's a comedian.
Yeah.
And he has a great, I mean, it's funny, but it's also poignant. He was like, now you can just Amazon a blow up doll to your front porch.
Legit.
You know?
That's actually true.
And you can just yell at it and you're like, I'm going to fuck that thing. That thing doesn't even know you're in your road.
Yeah.
He's like, whereas when you were a kid, you had to walk into the unmarked building that was like, and you're like
little room in the
waiting
back
for
of the
everybody to like
ID
leave.
when you walk in.
You have to go behind
right.
the counter where the fucking blow up dolls are. You'd be like, in addition to that, let me, like looking around. But, I mean, there was a certain amount of like shame that was involved with having to get your porn.
Well, I would say you had to actually overcome some of the shame to get your porn. Which you don't now. It's still a shameful experience. It's just you can do it in the comforts of your bedroom.
That's
no one
what
has to
I
know
mean.
about it.
Yeah, back then you literally had to walk in.
And
say, can I help you?
Not you specifically, but yeah.
Hey, where's your foot section, dog?
Seriously.
We went through the VCRs and the DVDs.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my buddies, like when I was in my addiction, I could watch porn for 9 hours. Right.
Wow.
I mean, I was on meth. I could just
like
watch
while you're high or whatever.
And I would just have rug burn. My dick would just be beat to shit. Right.
Jeez.
And I couldn't touch it the next day. And like if I peed and a little pee got on the wrong side, it was like it burned and stuff. That's how bad it was. But one of my buddies, he was like, he never did drugs, and he was like, I don't know why they make these porn videos for 2 hours. Like, what do you do for the other hour and 58 minutes? So you just stop it there and you just keep going. This thing will last me 60 sessions.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. The crazy thing now, right? And then there was actually the stage of like Kazaa, LimeWire. Do you guys ever do that?
Yeah.
Where you like the torrent download. You download.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everyone had their own platform, but the crazy thing now is, so they say porn is the 3 A's. It's affordable because it's free.
Yeah.
Accessible because of smartphones, and anonymous, right? No, like nobody has to know. And those 3 things are at a different degree than like even drugs or alcohol. Because they all have the 3 A's, but to varying degrees. But now, because what you just described is, I describe it as a barrier to entry.
Yeah.
There's a barrier to entry. And that barrier to entry, I think, actually prevented a lot of addictions because it was so much work. It's not to say, it's prevented a lot of porn addictions. I think people probably found their vices other ways.
Yeah.
But now the barrier to entry is so low that me as an 11-year-old kid getting exposed on my smartphone, it's a totally different experience because I can just keep searching and I can get whatever I want.
Yeah.
And if I don't like what I see here, now I have AR, I have VR, I have AI. I was just working with a client. You laugh, but dude, I was just working with the client. His marriage is on the rocks. You know, they're early 50s. Kids are just moving out of the house. Marriage is hanging on by a thread because during COVID, he had 3 emotional affairs online, and he found out that every single one of them was with a bot.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's the world we live in.
So the reason I started laughing is because you said VR, right?
Yeah.
So here, you want a quick funny story? When I was on meth,
Sure.
so I went to my buddy's house that I used to do meth with, and we had to be at work. And I pull up in his house, knock on the door, nobody answers. So he always left the back door unlocked. So I go around the back door. Well, I'm going to walk in, but I see his wife's purse is on the table. So I didn't just want to walk in because she's there.
Okay.
So I call her and I say, hey, I said, are you at the house? And she's like, no. I said, well, I won't say his name. Yeah, I will. His name's Keaton. So I'm like, is Keaton here? And she said, yeah, he's there. I said, oh, because he's not answering the phone. He's not answering the door. So I hang up and the back door's locked. It's never locked. So I walk to his bedroom window and I look in and he's butt ass naked on the bed with VR goggles on, just beating off.
No.
So I start pounding on the window, and he pops up and he's looking around, but he can't see nothing because he's got these VR goggles on. And I should have took a picture, but I didn't. I interrupted him, and he come out.
The rest of his
he
life,
had Vaseline all over. It's like,
Dang,
hey, I'm
dude.
sorry, I didn't know what time it was, and we got to go to work.
How long ago is this? If he had VR,
This
it could have
was
been that long
probably
ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah, VR
Yeah.
then?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, this was in the
wow.
very beginning of VR.
Yeah. Well,
Which was real weird. I don't know how it is now, but it's like I watched it one time, but that wasn't my thing.
Okay.
Because it was like you're in a porn, but you're not getting any satisfaction from it, right? It's
Yeah.
like you're watching people, but it just didn't do nothing for me.
No, I get
Maybe
it.
it's for some other people.
But you know, it's interesting. I did a deep dive on this a couple years ago, just like the history of the industry and how it got online. Dude, the porn industry, they were the first people to collect money online. This is back in like the 80s. The first people to accept credit card payments. You know, the freemium model that most tech companies follow, like you get it for free and then you can pay to get like a little bit
Right.
more. They were the first people to do that.
Really?
Like it's wild,
Cutting
man.
edge.
So now that we're talking about it, I'm like, oh, I'm surprised to hear that was with VR a couple years ago. But actually, that's probably how VR came about. It was probably the adult industry that drove that. So that actually does make sense.
That's wild, man.
yeah.
So, I mean, you're working with people in this now. You know, let me rewind the clock. So how did you get recovered? What was your road to recovery?
Yeah.
Like in this, how did that happen?
Yeah. Okay. So in the porn addiction world, the standard solutions are cold turkey, internet filters, getting an accountability partner, and then, you know, if there's a faith-based element, it would be like pray more.
That's
and
what I was gonna
read
say.
the Bible, that kind of stuff. And then obviously like willpower and white knuckling, which, you know, for a brown guy, it's not easy to white knuckle anything. I did my best, but it only got me so far, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I had about 3 years of recovery where it's like I'm putting in the effort, but I'm not really getting the results. Like
Yeah.
I'm still binging every, I don't know, week, every couple weeks. Maybe I can go longer, but it always ends one way or the other with a really bad binge. So a bunch of things all came together, but I basically started doing more deep work. I call it a heart level, a psychological level. So instead of just trying to like manipulate the behavior, trying to figure out why am I engaging in the behavior in the first place?
The root of it.
The root of it, exactly. Yeah, which is literally, I mean, that's the subtitle of my book. It's like Get to the Roots of Porn Addiction. So that's when my life really started to change. And when it started to change, I was like, how is nobody talking about this? You know, in the church environment, because at this point now, church is a much bigger part of my life. And so, you know, if you just go to the bar, or you talk to somebody in public, you're gonna get mixed opinions about pornography. Some people are gonna love it, some people don't care about it, and some people, their life has maybe been negatively affected by it. But in the church, there's a moral ethic, right? And so there's an understanding that this is not the kind of stuff that you would engage with as a person who's going to church.
Right.
So I was like, even in the church, how are we not talking about this stuff, like getting more to the root of the issue? So I just vowed in my heart, like, if this actually does get me free, then I will do everything in my power to help as many other guys experience this freedom as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I had my last relapse February 2016. And I waited a couple years because I didn't want to rush into it. I had been there before where I'd gone like 8 months or 12 months and then I like fell back. So I just waited long enough. And then I had a bunch of other life circumstances. Like I got engaged. My fiance was bedridden. She got really sick during our engagement. And I had to kind of just like start to get a bit more entrepreneurial. And that's how my business actually all came about.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible.
Oh, thanks, man.
And so how is the recovery process though? Like I'm trying to I think I'm trying to compare drug addiction with this a little bit, or at least try and draw the parallel, but it's really so different.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fascinating to me. So like the white knuckling process of this and the trying to get your way through this and the relapse. I mean, is the shame what ultimately brings you back?
The shame, I think the shame actually stops you from ever getting away in the first place.
Yeah.
Like you can go a couple months without meth or whatever it is. But if you fall back into it, to run with the root example, like that's kind of indicators that the roots are still there to some effect. And shame kind of preserves the roots. So it's actually like everything we do is very communally oriented because we have to de-shame as quickly as possible. Because if people go through our system while still operating in shame, they're just not going to get the results they want.
Right.
And, you know, we had a client, well, we've had lots of clients, but one in particular comes to mind. He was late 60s. I think he was right around 70. He had been cheating on his wife basically his entire marriage. He would have an affair at every opportunity that came his way. Got caught. Pornography was a huge part of it. He had been sober for 2 years, but he came to us because he was miserable. And he's like, you talk about like a different kind of recovery where you actually like your life and you like people. And he's like, that's not me. He's like, I'm just hanging on for dear life, trying to keep my wife around.
Yeah.
But I actually hate my life. I almost wish I was addicted again. Like life was actually more pleasurable then.
Yeah.
And that's a great example of somebody who's still operating in shame.
Right.
Like they've kind of figured out the behavioral part, you know, like it's kind of like running over a weed with the lawnmower. Like, yeah, you can keep things clean, but it's still a weed at the end of the day and the root system is still there. So I think the whole premise of pornography addiction really is that roots part. And so that's where it comes to those 3 steps. Like it's building self-awareness. A lot of guys, and the shame part is part of this, but a lot of guys don't understand why they watch. It's like, oh, I'm a dude, I got horny and I watched. And it's like, okay, fair. That's I'm sure that's accurate, but I guarantee you there's more going on underneath the surface. So building that self-awareness is a huge part of it, just understanding. But that's only one side of the coin. The other side is if I know, okay, I got a busy work week coming up, this project is stressing me out. If I have self-awareness, I can plan for it so that I don't get to that mental place where I'm flying off the handle and I just need something to reward or release. That awareness allows you to be like a little bit more proactive and kind of preemptive, right? So again, that's the gateway to all recovery, I think, is self-awareness, building that understanding of what's actually driving it. What are the uncomfortable feelings? What are the belief systems, the thought patterns? What are the things that actually are leading you to watch porn in the first place?
And staying there has a lot to do with community.
Yes.
Right. Like, I mean, there needs to be community and people that understand and have gone through and the accountability buddy, as I call them, right? Like, or a bunch of them. Yeah. And you just said something a little while ago, you know, that I wish church or faith would open up and talk about this a lot more. I think that about drugs and alcoholism as well.
Same deal.
But in those arenas, those are so taboo, right?
Yeah.
Those are sins, or you know, you just I can't talk about that
Yeah.
here. I can't open up.
I had a buddy one time. They were in a small group, and they were going around just sharing like prayer requests. But they all agreed. There was like 8 of them. They all agreed they were going to share more than just like the standard prayer requests. You know, like pray for promotion at work or whatever. So everyone's like getting pretty real. So, so he shares. He's like, man. He's like, I haven't actually told a lot of people this, but I really struggle with smoking. Like if I get really stressed at work, he's a business owner. You know, I smoke like a couple times, and dude, the judgment, like they all looked at him like, that's your, like, I know we were getting vulnerable, dude, but like smoking, like what's your, you know, didn't get it. He was like ready to leave the church. He was so upset.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't, like he was grounded enough, but yeah, like what you're saying, dude, it's real.
Yeah.
The church that I go to is the first church that I've ever been to where they'll actually bring it up in prayer.
Wow.
Whenever they talk about it.
That's cool.
I go to City Reach. If you're in Austin, that's a phenomenal church.
It is a great church.
And I have heard many times where they talk about rape, molestation, fucking drug addiction, and they bring it to the forefront.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I remember the first time I ever heard it, I was like, oh my God, I've never heard this in church before. Like I've never heard a preacher actually talk about this.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so great because as a recovering drug addict, I think that it should be brought to the forefront. I think you would be surprised of the people that watch porn out there, of how many that actually do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how many do it on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
Especially
well, the stats don't lie.
Yeah.
Millions of people are watching porn.
Yeah,
So
every day.
some of those guys are Christians. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of them that we know that haven't came out and said, hey, I have a porn addiction.
Yeah.
Right? I've got a buddy that's in recovery that he struggles with it from time to time. And he goes through it with his wife. And, you know, he does it and then he tells her and she's like, well, hey, you know, it's just pray about it, right?
Yeah.
And that's how he kind of overcomes it most of the time is he said that he asked God to remove it from him.
That openness is good.
You know, he said, I just tell him, man, just take this away from me right now.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I've never really thought about this before, but I think most pastors wouldn't talk about drugs and alcohol addiction because they don't understand it. They've never had their experience with it.
Right.
But the data would suggest that most pastors aren't talking about pornography because they're struggling themselves.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, every survey I've seen, it comes back 50% plus of pastors that have watched porn in the last month, or, you know, there's always some time frame.
Let's check your history and see if it's clear.
Yeah, exactly.
You're watching porn.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd be surprised. You'd be really surprised. So for pastors, a lot of pastors, and I have friends who are pastors still because, you know, I pastored for a while. And a lot of them are like, man, I just can't, like, I'm figuring this out. And I can't be the hypocrite who's saying don't watch porn from the pulpit when I'm struggling. So it's a different tension they go through. But yeah, I mean, I'm determined to see that stigma break down for sure.
I went through it in a relationship before I was ever a drug addict.
Interesting.
And it was, I don't know why it was. I've never really looked at the root. But it was like, I remember times where I wanted to have sex and she was like, no, I'm too tired. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna go watch porn. So go fall asleep and I'm gonna go in the other room and, you know, do what I got to do.
Yep.
And, I remember like at the end of it, I would feel so guilty, right? I would feel like, man, and then when she found out, cause she always found out, like it didn't matter what I cleared on my history with my brow, it didn't matter.
And sometimes they know, even if they don't find out. Women are so intuitive, man.
And she looked at it as if I was cheating on her.
Yeah.
You know, like, well, you're cheating on me.
Right.
And it's funny because I talked to one of my homegirls today and I was telling her that we have someone coming on the podcast that wrote a book about this. And she said, that is my number one relationship killer is if I find out that my boyfriend is watching porn, there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. He's
deal
gone.
breaker. Wow.
And she said it's because she has trauma from it.
Yeah.
From where she's went through relationship, I'm in love, boom, he's watching porn, I'm in love, boom.
Yeah.
And she said that it's just a relationship killer now.
Yeah. You know, there's a whole emerging field in psychology called betrayal trauma. And most of there's different ways you can be betrayed, but a lot of it's being driven by spouses or partners of porn addicts because that's literally what the experience is like for them. Like they feel betrayed to the point that it's traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so let me ask you this. Here's a great question. do you deal with a lot mainly men, or do you also have women that are porn addicts? Because like if my fiance was watching porn, especially like lesbian porn, I'd be like, cool, right?
Sure.
Now, if she was watching other types of porn where maybe a guy has a bigger dick than me, I'm like, what the fuck, right? I don't
Totally
want you watching that.
Yeah.
She's totally different, right? So do you
tramp.
Yeah. How dare you?
That is the line.
How
Yeah.
did you find that? So do you work with women too? Or
I
is that-
don't. My practice is exclusively with male. That's not because women aren't out there struggling. So like Pornhub stats suggest, I think it's 36% of all their viewers are female.
Really?
So the ratio is about 2 to 1 guys to girls watching porn these days.
Now, how many? I wonder if it's more common for guys to come out and say, "Hey, I have a problem with this," rather than women saying, "I have a problem with it."
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And that, like, I mean, porn addiction for a guy is already stigmatized so much. So for women, it's so much more difficult because it's kind of like a man's issue. We can at least understand that. But for girls, there's not a lot of places they can run to. And we have like over 100K people that follow me on Instagram. And, I think 25-30% of them are women reaching out, asking for resources. Like, we try to help as much as we can. But there's other people that serve women. But yeah, my practice is with men, professional men. That seems to be where we're the most effective. Yeah. A lot of like doctors and business owners, CEOs. Yeah. All that kind of stuff.
People that have resources.
Yeah. People that have resources, people that have a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations.
Yeah.
And pornography is kind of like an easier way to cope and
Get old
reward
release.
yourself.
Well,
Yeah, get a release. Yeah, exactly.
Get old release.
Yeah.
and it's something that, like, now that I'm thinking about it, there's no like physical repercussion to it. You don't show up hungover.
No.
You don't show up.
That's right.
If anything, you release and you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
okay, now it's just I'm good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you sleep and you start a new day.
You know. So, man.
So, and that's part of the danger of it, right?
Yeah.
Because like the hangover at least is kind of like negative feedback. Like that was kind of a dumb thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, the binge, the porn binge, like you're not feeling it physically the next day. Now, what we talked about at the beginning, we talked about erectile dysfunction. So once you start having the sexual performance issues, that's when it's like, okay, obviously there's some major issues here.
Yeah, there's a deal.
And that's not a small contingent. The last stat I saw was 2020 or 2021. But 30% of men under the age of 40 report experiencing erectile dysfunction.
That have porn addictions?
No,
Or that just
men
in
in
general?
general. So in 2001, to give you an idea, with the same age group, men under the age of 40, it was 5%. So
Really?
it's 6x'd in the last 20 years. And again, not all because of pornography. There's stress, there's hormone, like there's all kinds of stuff. But let's not kid ourselves. Like we're all watching a lot more porn. And it is creating this unnatural barrier of like, I need so much stimulation to get aroused that an in-person experience just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. It really is. It's
That's
like
good. I'm glad you're learning
and I'm the moron of the group, right? Like I don't understand addiction at all.
Yeah. Which side note, I actually thought I was the moron coming in.
No,
I thought it was two addicts that are going to interview me, and I'm the moron. And I was like, okay, all right, let's go.
No, man. No, you're definitely
We were going to
you.
call this something else, but we couldn't morally use that word, so we went with moron.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I would have flagged in the algorithm.
Yeah,
I
was,
got you.
they frown
We
on
got
that
canceled.
word.
Trust me, I get canceled by the algorithm all the time.
Oh,
talking about
no,
porn.
I bet, dude. I bet you're just trying to bob and weave your
Dude,
way through it.
Find that little narrow space to get in
Yeah,
there.
just work it. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
dude. But what you're doing is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's a very, very important.
Yes.
And you're creating a community of people who can get around each other and be like, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
That's what we said about doing this podcast.
Yeah.
We want people to not feel alone.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't like or subscribe and you came across it, you watch it, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So
And
good.
so I applaud you for what you're doing here and getting out and talking about this really taboo subject. I mean, because so many people are struggling with this. Like maybe even more than drugs. It's just easier to hide.
Yeah.
It's way easier to hide than drugs.
I won't lie. I still watch porn from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not going to sit here and lie. I
Yep.
mean, it's.
100%.
I said it on this podcast before. When I went to rehab, I had a drug addiction, a gambling addiction, and a porn addiction, and I got rid of 2 of them. I don't
Dude.
have it.
we have clients who have had the same story as you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, man, I was addicted to cocaine. I got clean. I was addicted to alcohol. But pornography is just like, it's a different animal altogether.
Well, I think especially if you're a drug addict, like when you get rid of, I'm not a drug addict anymore,
Yeah.
but I still watch porn. Well, that's way better than being a drug addict, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you were going to get rid of one of them,
Yes.
which one would you rather get rid of?
I gotta have something. I gotta have something,
Yeah.
right?
And you're gonna. I mean,
Yeah.
from all my addiction, I'm always gonna justify. Well, at least I'm not still smoking meth and watching porn for 9 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
And downloading 400 videos and then erasing them because I feel guilty in case my daughter gets my phone the next day.
Yeah,
I don't even know why I would download all the videos. I watch the previews, download, and go to the next one. Download, go to the next
Yes,
one. Right?
yes, yeah.
But I think that. So let me ask you this.
Well, can I pause you for a second?
Yes.
Okay, what you just said is actually the like from a neuroscience standpoint, that's the basis of all addiction. Is you're not addicted to the substance, you're not even addicted to the hit. You're actually addicted to the next thing. The next thing is what keeps you going again and again and again. That's why I said we're all addicted to our phones.
Yeah.
Because we all go like this, right? We're looking
Yeah.
for the next thing, the next
Right,
post,
right.
the next notification, whatever it is. So, anyways, that was a really
No,
interesting
that
thing
makes
you mentioned.
sense.
Yeah.
Because I would never go back to the video I downloaded or the preview. I
No.
would just go to the next one.
Yeah, that's what makes it
maybe the next
exciting.
one's gonna be better.
Yeah.
Maybe the next one's gonna be, and it's same whenever I was getting high.
Yeah.
Maybe then the next hit's gonna be the one.
100%,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have a lot of what? Maybe you can say this. Maybe you don't. Do you realize? Do you see a lot of people that have been married for a little while that all of a sudden get maybe more of a porn addiction, or they ramp it up because as you are in a relationship longer, a lot of the times the sex falls out or it comes down. It's not like you're fucking every day like you were when y'all were dating, right?
Yeah.
And do you see a lot of people start turning to more porn because of that?
Really good question. Yes. Short answer is yes. It is because they're having less sex, but there's another layer to it, which is that the longer you go into a marriage or just a long-term relationship, the more that the woman needs emotional connection to want to engage with you sexually. And when somebody watches pornography, there's actually data behind this. They actually lose their capacity for emotional connection. So like a lot of our guys, when they come in, they're kind of like emotional zombies a little bit.
Right. Well, it's an easy disconnect.
It's an easy disconnect.
Yeah, there's
and they've disconnected so hard now that they have no empathy. They don't know how to relate. They keep everybody at an arm's length. So that starts to affect the marriage, and then the wife doesn't want to engage sexually. This is assuming that there aren't any like physical issues that we were talking about before, right? So that's one part of it, and we definitely see a lot of that. But I would say what's actually more common is the guy gets his career's established, he's married, he starts having some kids, and between all of those things, there's a big life change, and he can't cope with the stress, and that's when porn just becomes the easy outlet. And that's when like the habits start to get worse and they decline, and then it starts to affect the marriage, or it starts to affect the kids, or it starts to affect productivity at work. Tons of guys losing their jobs because they're watching porn at work.
Where's Daddy's in the bathroom again? I'll be out in a minute.
yeah, dude,
Yeah.
probably not too far off.
Yeah.
It so I would say it's those two things. It's either life changes or sometimes the lack of sex, but usually it's not just the lack of sex, it's actually the lack of connection.
It's the next thing.
Right.
It's leveling up.
Yeah.
Leveling up to the next thing.
Yeah.
God, it makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense. It makes it simple, right?
Yeah.
But it's like in my mind, I'm like, I just watch porn. I never thought about. Well, it's kind of like what you said. Like when you're a drug addict, the reason you go through steps is so you can peel back layers, right? And figure out, okay, why?
Yeah.
Where's the root of the problem?
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Rather than I just like to get high.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why do you like to get high? Why do you feel like you need to put something in your body to feel better?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then when you start going through these steps and you start realizing, well, I got childhood trauma, or I have relationship problems, or I'm codependent, or this or that, you start realizing all these character defects and all this, and it starts opening up your eyes to, I didn't realize that when someone touched me when I was 4 years old, that still was affecting me today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We think we suppressed it.
Yeah,
we moved on
I've
with
just
it.
pushed it away. If I've moved past it.
Yeah.
Well, no, that still follows back in
Yeah.
or this and that. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's a unique quality actually of pornography addiction though, because the kind of content you watch can actually tell you a lot about what you're trying to get out of the experience.
For sure.
Right? Like if we boil this down, like a lot of people watch pornography to meet unmet needs. Right?
Okay.
And the kind of needs that you're trying to get met are often revealed in what you fantasize about and the kind of content you watch. So I'll give you a very classic example. This was in a workshop I was doing with some clients last week. And we were calling it, the workshop was called Dissecting Your Fantasies. So I had the guys, I said, okay, just think about some fantasies you've had recently. Well, don't think about them, but bring to mind your fantasies that you've had recently. And we kind of started talking about some details of it. So without getting into the details of the fantasy, I asked, can you identify any patterns when you have fantasized? And the one client was stuck. And so we were talking it through a little bit. And I said, okay, well, when was the last time that you caught yourself like kind of having these sort of like sexual fantasies? He's like, okay, I was in a work meeting and there's a guy in the meeting. He always kind of belittles me. He doesn't respect me. And my boss was in the meeting and my boss is great. And he even will stand up for me sometimes. But this time he didn't kind of have my back. He's like, so I was just feeling so small about myself. So I said, okay, all right, that makes sense. And what was your fantasy? So he starts to explain it. And he basically, as he's talking about it, he's like, the fantasy for me was actually all about control. I just wanted to feel in control. And that fantasy gave me that sense of control. So it's a great example where it's like, oh, well, that makes sense because here you were in this work environment where you felt totally powerless. This guy's bullying you. Your boy's not backing you up. Your boss is not there for you. You feel powerless. So naturally, you're now creating a fantasy to try to meet this unmet need. And I told him, so the next time that you feel the temptation to fantasize, especially if it's that kind of fantasy, what you're actually after. What you're actually after is wanting to feel in control, wanting to feel powerful. And your job now is to figure out how to do that in a work environment or in whatever environment you're in. So pornography is really interesting that way, where you can actually get into some of the specifics around it, where suppression is almost the worst thing you could do. And in the church, you get a lot of this advice, like just ignore it, move on, stuff it, suppress it. And our approach is completely the opposite. It's like, actually, we can learn from that. We can actually find a solution in there,
right,
if we get the right details and the right information.
That's the word, the solution.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because I think suppressing it was that can't be any good.
No,
for it,
no
right?
good.
That's sweeping a pile of dirt in your kitchen and not picking it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Except we're talking about your sexuality here. We're talking about sex drive.
Right.
It's like sweeping a bomb under your rug and hoping it doesn't go off.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the other side of these men. Do you talk to their spouses and their wives?
Yeah.
Do you? Okay.
Yep.
So I'm from the belief that women who are in love with someone, they'll meet your fantasy for you. You just can't be ashamed
to tell them
what that is.
Yeah.
Because again, with the woman, it's so much more emotional, right? They just want to please and make you happy. And most of the time. Sure. So, I found that women are a lot more open-minded than their spouse would give them credit for.
True.
If they just, do you find that to be the case when you're talking to some of the spouses of these men?
Yeah, well, this goes back to the shame conversation, right? Because when you deal with shame, the ultimate message of shame is hide.
Yeah.
Hide yourself, right? And what we were just talking about a minute ago, if you really embrace what you want, the desires, that's actually how you get out of the shame. Right. You have to acknowledge, like, I do want that. Yeah, that does turn me on.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful man right there who can say, this is actually what I want. This is what I'm about. This does something for me. But most guys aren't willing to go there. And so the sex life really, really struggles. So what we hear from wives, maybe it's not that specific, is just it's hard to talk about sex. Like it's hard to even just have conversations around it. Very shut off.
Well, I think maybe even if because I know some women that would do pretty much whatever, right? And I know some women that, if my husband wants to bring another woman in, I'm open to it.
Interesting,
right?
Yeah.
Or if I know because it's just sex, right? It's not. There's no there's no love there. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
I also know a couple of people that if their husband wanted to bring a guy in or a tranny in, that they would be open to it, right? But I think that a guy actually going to his wife and saying, "Hey, this is what I'm about," that's got to be like the most terrifying thing that you possibly
pretty
ever
vulnerable.
could.
Well, because you risk rejection, right?
All right.
That's actually what makes porn so enticing.
Yeah.
There's no risk of rejection.
Yeah.
No risk.
You're
Zero
going to
risk.
get whatever you want.
Yeah, that's right. No one's saying no to me.
Yeah.
And with OnlyFans now, I just have to pay a little bit and I can get whatever I want. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So no, you're absolutely right. Like I think it is that risk of rejection that stops us from wanting to talk about sex. I was like that the first little bit of marriage, and I've been very surprised at how willing my wife is to just have conversations about it.
Yeah.
And she doesn't tense up and she doesn't get awkward about it. And I mean, my parents were kind of like that. So I think I just kind of brought that into my marriage and I
Right.
assumed we're not going to talk about it either.
Yeah.
But it's really liberating to have those conversations. Like I can't recommend it enough.
It's probably makes you feel free.
100%.
Right? Like, I'm free now. Like,
Yeah.
now I don't have to hide it.
Exactly.
Now you know what my fantasies are.
Yeah.
Now you know the reason that I resort to that, because
Yes.
maybe I feel like I can't do that with you.
Yeah.
So I've got to go do it somewhere else, because that's really what turns me on.
Yeah.
And then if your spouse is like, "Well, I'm open to that." Right?
Yeah. Yep. 100%. So I think the we're talking about like the green side of it. The difficult side of it is if your wife doesn't like
Right.
the fantasy, or if what you're asking for is like like it's not even crazy, it's like barely anything, and she says no to it because she has trauma around it or something, something to that effect. So I think that's where this conversation gets a lot more difficult.
Or maybe a lot of judgment too.
Yeah, could
Like
be
if you
judgment
come
around
out
it.
like, "Oh my God, you're into that? What the hell?" You know what I mean?
That can be devastating.
That
for
could be
sure.
devastating. And
Yeah.
that could literally, you might lose your marriage over what you're trying to say, like, this is what turns me on.
Yes.
I'm not about that at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like I've always said, like, if I'm with somebody that I love, like a female, and she wants to bring another woman into it, I would never do it. I won't.
Yeah.
Because not that I wouldn't enjoy it, right? But I know that it's probably never going to stop there.
Yeah.
And then what if I'll never be able to say that I didn't cheat on you, because no, actually you did. You did it right in front of me. Right?
Yeah.
And then what if I enjoyed her more than you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would just, or what if next time she says, "Well, let's bring a guy in." I'm not about that either.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would be okay with a woman, but
Yeah.
not if you, not two dicks in here. No. Right. So I think that's where a lot of that comes out, where what if I bring it to your attention and you're like, "Oh my God, no, what the hell?" And then maybe you go and tell my friends what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Or maybe you tell my family or your family, or this is the reason we got a divorce. With social media now,
Yeah.
people might put that right on your page.
get
Like, this
anything
is the
out
reason
there.
I left this guy, because this is what he wanted to do. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So it's a damned if you do and damned if you don't kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot of bravery to talk
lot of
about your
bravery.
your
lot.
fantasies.
Yeah.
And then if you're not that brave, and I do not blame anybody for or judge them for not being that brave, but
Yeah.
if you're not, that's where the porn comes in, because now it's like I can go here judgment free. Nobody's watching, nobody
Yeah.
is listening.
Nobody will even know.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, nobody even knows. And I think I think actually, if you don't have any kind of connection with the other person, it's a very high risk, very high reward thing. Because it's like I'm putting it out there basically just to get what I want.
Right.
But if there's a connection there, if this is somebody that you really care about, somebody that you love, this conversation is actually more about deepening the connection.
Right.
Right. It's two completely different agendas. And I think it's actually a lot. If you have an emotional connection already built, that conversation is still risky, but it's a lot less.
Yeah. It's our hard. I've said it a million times on this podcast, but through tough conversations, progress is found.
Yes.
Right. And that goes for your children, that goes for your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend,
Yeah.
guys at work, buddies,
Yeah.
all of it. I mean, it's just always found on the other side. So if you have somebody in front of you that's going to judge you for something that you have a legitimate fantasy about, and you are legitimately trying to make a deeper connection,
Yeah.
and they judge you for that,
Yeah.
that might not be the one, man.
That can be tough.
That might not be the person for you.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, could you imagine doing that and then them flipping out, and you'd be like, I was just
yeah.
I was
I
just
didn't mean
joking.
that.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to see how you would react. You really think I'm into that? What the fuck?
Yeah,
And they go to the
right.
bathroom and cry. It's like,
Hopefully that's all you do.
cry and
Yeah.
watch porn. Probably.
Yeah. But the clinical side of this is there's a process called disclosure. So you were asking earlier, like, what do we do with the couples, right?
Yeah.
So we actually teach our clients this disclosure process, which is just a proper way to talk to your spouse about your problem. Because guys mess this up so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so bad.
Yeah, I bet.
So like guys will drip the information out because they don't want to hurt her.
Yeah.
But then she ends up living in basically constant trauma because she's like, I don't know when you're going to drop another bomb on me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to find out another layer of something terrible that you did.
Yeah.
Or guys like kind of skim the details and they tell the truth technically.
Yeah.
But it's not really what's actually going on. And then even sometimes when guys do it right and they do tell the truth, they just kind of vomit everything out there.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, this was great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
I feel better.
Yeah, I got it all off my chest, And she's just like, overwhelmed by
just
it.
like, oh God.
Yeah.
I can see myself letting it loose in a really bad argument.
Sure, yeah.
That's when, like, if we're arguing and you hurt me in some kind of way.
Yes.
Oh yeah, well, this is this is the reason I watch it.
Yeah, like a retaliatory
Yes,
kind of
absolutely.
thing.
That's what I would do.
Yeah,
I know that
100%.
100%. I know how I am.
Yep. Yeah. No, and I think a lot of guys would relate to that for sure. I think it's pretty common. So with our clients, we just teach them, hey, here's how you have these conversations. Usually we recommend as well setting some boundaries around like how you're going to communicate about your recovery journey, all that kind of stuff. There's certain processes there. So that's like the healthier side of it, for guys who are taking their marriage seriously, often cases fighting for it, trying to get it back on track.
Right.
And that can go a long way.
Man. And getting these things back on track. I'm just like trying to imagine all the amount of honesty that has to take place
Yeah.
with your clients.
Yeah.
On both sides of this ledger.
Yeah.
know?
It's I used to say the same thing, the amount of honesty, but I've changed my language a bit. It's actually about being honest consistently enough.
There you go.
That's what actually repairs a relationship. And guys would be amazed. Like guys think like, oh, recovery, that means I have to be perfect. I can't have any slips. And it's really not like that. It's actually just about being consistently transparent with your significant other. That's what rebuilds the trust. And obviously, like you do have to get your act together and clean things up.
Yeah.
But there's room for you to stumble along the way if you're at least consistently being honest.
Yeah. I mean, you said it, the drip, right? Like, but if, like, I'm thinking about it, if you're consistent with that drip of honesty, then it's small doses of it throughout time.
That's right. Yeah. That's
rather
kind of the
than
reverse
just, just turning it on every 10 years because it's just like, I gotta fucking do that. Like,
gotta get off my chest.
Yeah. So that's really cool. I can't imagine the conversations that you're privy to, dude.
Yeah. It's wild, man.
Yeah, it's a wild thing.
It's wild. And again, like people just don't think that porn would cause that. They don't think it would derail a life or
I can
derail a
easily
marriage.
see it.
Yeah.
Oh, I could see it for
I
sure.
could easily see it.
Yeah.
So
I could definitely see it. I know in my relationship that I was in, it would have definitely, it definitely hurt it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when she caught me beating off.
yeah.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tried to, this is when you didn't have laptops and shit, right? It was a regular computer.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
I tried to like hit the power button and the motherfucker froze. So it was like, it just
I've never
froze.
heard that one before. That's
So
funny.
the screen froze. So I'm trying to like kick the power button down,
Right.
the
Yeah.
switch.
Yeah.
And she's like, what are you doing? And I mean, what do you say? I got
you're
my
like,
shorts
I
are by my ankles.
got a virus
And I'm
or
fucking
something.
beating off
Yeah.
and there's two chicks and a guy on the fucking screen. Like,
Right.
we kind of know what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that didn't go over well.
Can't take yourself out of that one. Yeah.
And but yeah, I could definitely see how that relationship that I was in for that one, that started it on the down.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It really hurts.
She really felt like you're cheating on me.
Yeah.
Right. And I really wasn't. I didn't feel like I was cheating on you.
Yeah.
You didn't want to have sex. I came up here to watch porn.
Yeah.
You know?
But it also breaks trust because it's done in secrecy, right? Like I tell married guys, if your wife doesn't know, there's only two ways it ends. You either confess or you get caught.
Yeah.
Choice is yours.
Just pop it in while she's there. Just see what she says.
Yeah, I'm doing this right in front of you.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't want to.
Just so you
I don't
know.
want to hide it anymore.
Well,
Just
that's
so
a whole
we're
other
clear.
thing, right? Because that's a thing now, right? People watch porn to spice things up in the bedroom.
Sure.
But it's not too different than what you were saying earlier. Like if you bring another woman into the bedroom with you and your partner, there's always the risk that you enjoy that more, or the way I would say it is there's a risk that you condition yourself to need it. And if you condition yourself to need arousal from something else other than your spouse to then enjoy your
Yeah.
how does that make sense? Like that can't
Right,
actually
right.
be good for your relationship either.
That can't be good for their mental either.
No.
For your spouse's mental.
100%. Like that's degrading
do you want
to
me
her.
to put porn on so you can get hard?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to get another chick over here so you can finally nut?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's we all inherently know that's not the way it's supposed
I
to
mean,
be.
if you flip that around, like if my chick needed another guy in the bedroom
right.
to get aroused,
Yeah, you could be like,
I'm gonna feel this big.
yeah,
Right?
100%.
And I'm not gonna feel good about myself ever.
Yes.
Like that is gonna kill all my ego that I even have.
Yeah.
And I've never
exactly.
thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Like, bring a chick
So-
in, maybe.
Right.
Bring a dude in.
Yeah. So there you go. Like that's what betrayal trauma is. So that's what your previous partner was feeling
Yeah.
when she saw you watching porn is like, oh, I guess I'm not enough for you.
Yeah.
It's all of that.
Well, another girl also turned you on.
Yeah,
right? That's-
exactly.
Oh, you got hard from another
Yeah.
chick.
So cue all the comparison.
But I don't even know her. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. No, that argument doesn't
I don't
work.
even know her.
Yeah.
I'll never run into her on the street.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the recovery process for this, like when addicts and alcoholics, when they go to rehab, it's 30, 60 or
Yeah.
90 days, right?
Yeah.
What does a recovery process for pornography addiction look like?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
So a lot of the programs out there that help guys with porn are typically 90 days.
Okay.
We found that 90 days is just not enough. And it's mostly because when a drug addict goes into rehab, I mean, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is usually it's not his first time when he finally gets free.
I think for my experience,
Yeah.
I went to rehab once,
Okay.
and I'm the only person that I've ever met, and I know a lot
Yeah, I
of
was
people
gonna say,
in the
I've never heard
community.
that before. Yeah.
I know I'm the only person I've ever met that went to rehab one time and got sober.
Interesting.
So
Most people that come on here have been 7, 8, 17, 27 times.
usually it's double digits. That's
Yeah.
at least what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but for you, and you're a little unique. You're a little unique because you were like 32 to 42.
Yeah,
right.
I was
Very
ready
true.
to
Just
stop.
all in
Yeah.
that. And I also think, like some of the stories we hear with the people coming on, they're like, "Yeah, my parents forced me to go at 17.
Yeah.
and I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And
They're not
then-
volunteering themselves into
And then I got in
necessarily.
trouble by the law, and then I had
Court
to go
made me,
again.
yeah.
The
Yes.
court mandated stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
And so it's like, I think by the time he ended, it was like, I'm surrendering
Yeah.
to this. I'm ready
Still
to get
very
sober.
rare, though.
It's
Yeah.
super
That's
rare.
super rare, yeah.
But I also think that he's a rare guy that's going into rehab for the first time at 42 years old.
Yeah, I got
too.
you. I got you.
So
Yeah.
I think a unique set of circumstances for Mike.
Yep. Yeah.
And this also sounds. I mean, dude, you had a 60 something. You said 70-year-old man.
Yeah.
Like roll in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've had people all across the board. So our program is not 90 days long because we found it wasn't long enough for people to really understand our system and actually apply it. Because what we do is very counterintuitive in a lot of ways. So there's kind of a paradigm shift there. So our program is 120 days. We have about a 70% success rate of guys who get free at least for 2 months in those first 4 months, 2 consecutive months. And the longer they stay with us after that, the better the results are, obviously.
Right.
But that 120-day mark has been really good for us to not just to get people clean, because with porn, like you can get clean for a little bit, but then your wife turns you down for sex. You have a stressful project. It doesn't take much to kind of set you
Right.
back. So we just found 120 days. The results are just a lot better. They're a lot longer lasting, and fewer guys were having relapses later on.
Okay.
So something that I know, and this is, I would say this with my porn too, is once it's in my head, I'm going to watch it, right?
Yeah.
Just like once I get in my car and I make that drive to my drug dealer's house, there's no turning me around.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, once you're there, you're there.
I'm on my way.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's the same way with people in recovery for porn.
Yeah.
Once that hits their mind and they grab their phone, they're probably fucking like,
Yeah.
there's probably no turning back.
Well, there's no drive to your phone.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
There's
true.
no like.
There's
that's
no
what I
thought
mean.
process.
There's no like it's instant.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's instantaneous.
Yeah.
At least with you had the moment to think. I got to go get in my car and drive to go
Yes.
pick up a bag. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
with,
that's true.
With
Yeah,
your
again,
clients,
the barrier to entry, right?
they don't have that. There's no barrier.
There's no barrier.
There's zero.
No, but the difference is with pornography, like you can't not find girls attractive. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you can't fully eliminate the stimulus or what would cause you maybe to springboard into thinking about it, having the visual, whatever it is. So there is definitely the thing of like, yeah, you don't even want to dabble because even dabbling is going to be a problem.
Right.
But you also need to have some kind of strategy in place so that if you are tempted or
When
if
it
you do
does,
start down
right.
there, you need to be able to kind of get off as quickly as possible.
So in recovery, you normally pick up the phone and call another addict, right? That's
Right.
one. That's
Yep.
one. So is that
Yeah, like an
something?
SOS kind
Is
of
that
thing.
the same kind of thing with
Yep.
y'all?
Yeah,
Pick up the phone and call somebody.
It could be that we don't mandate that specifically. We try to have a bit more of an individual approach, so we let people try different things. That can be one. Another one is like is changing your environment, going for walks, moving your body, stretching, push-ups. Like just you can really shift your brain pretty quickly if you know what to do.
Right.
Everybody's different, so there's different things. Some people they have playlists, like just music that gets them into a way better frame of mind.
Yeah.
So they'll just queue up the playlists on their phone or whatever. So it's different for everybody, but something that's quick
Yeah.
and easy.
You know what's funny is when I went to rehab, this is kind of on topic. When I went to rehab, probably everybody that used drugs watched porn.
Yeah.
I know I did.
Yeah, sure.
And to the max. When I went to rehab, you couldn't have your phones, right?
Okay.
You had to turn your phone in. And there was no computer there either, right? There was one Playboy in the upstairs bathroom.
Oh, man.
There's 10 guys, right?
Oh Jesus.
So everyone's using the same Playboy. Well, the first week that I'm there, the oldest guy there, he's gone now, but the oldest guy there, his name was Tony. When he released, he took the fucking Playboy with him and left one page, right?
Nice.
There was one page left, and that one page went from room to room to room. And
Wild,
it would be funny because someone's going to take a shower and like, hey, who's got page 19? Because that's the only page we had. And someone would have to go, it's in my room, go grab it, right? But I mean, it was like, it's kind of a funny story, but it's still, that's how serious it still is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, even though we're in a place for recovery from drugs, that porn, it's like you said, it's not as bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not smoking meth,
Yeah.
just watching porn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Your brain.
I need this.
Your brain still needs the release. Yeah.
Right?
It needs the reward. It needs
Yeah.
something to look forward to. And those guys probably don't even realize how dependent their bodies still are on getting that release.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a tour in Europe when I launched my book. And it was a bunch of random things came together. I wound up speaking at a Belgium prison.
Whoa.
They wanted me to go in and talk about porn addiction. I was like, dude, I'm gonna get crushed, but
Yeah.
okay, all right. And they introduced me, and they didn't tell me what I was gonna talk about. They let me do it. And as soon as I mentioned pornography, they all just like
yeah.
because it's so widespread. Like that's how these guys are getting by. That's how they survive. And obviously rehab's not prison, but it's
Well,
the same,
especially
it's the
in
same
prison now,
dynamic.
because they have laptops and tablets and all that.
True.
So I'm sure they
Yeah.
have access to it.
I'm sure. Yeah,
you know?
I don't think they.
I mean,
block it.
I've had some buddies that have been in prison for 10 and 15 years, and they've had cell phones in there that nobody knew that they had. They just kept them well hidden, and people snuck them into them.
Oh
right?
wow.
Yeah, so I'm
there you
sure
go. Yeah, they're finding their ways. I'm sure.
you're gonna, if you have an addiction, you're going to find your way to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: did you ever go to meetings or anything? Like I know in Austin they have Sex Addicts Anonymous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. SAA. Yeah.
And did you ever go to meetings like that?
I didn't. No. I never really got into the 12-step model, and I didn't have anything against it. It's just it never presented itself to me.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I didn't learn about SAA until I became a coach, like helping guys in this area.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know if it was out there.
So my fiance, she went into She went to a meeting. She thought it was an AA meeting,
Okay.
but it was a Sex Addicts Anonymous meeting, but it was a men's only meeting, right?
Oh, dang.
So she walked in.
Oh boy.
There's like 15 guys.
Yeah.
And she didn't know it was a men's only meeting. She just thought it was an AA meeting. Right?
Okay. And she's just the only girl.
Yeah. So after she starts hearing like some of them talk, and she's like, "What the fuck?
What are
like,
these
they were
guys
talking
drinking?"
some crazy shit."
Yeah.
And someone finally went over and asked her to leave, and they said, "Hey, you're ruining all of their recovery.
Shit.
Oh, man.
You gotta go."
Yeah,
So she
yeah.
left, but it's,
And that's not even being rude.
Yeah.
Like
No, that's
would-
just real,
I
like-
would just be like, look,
Hey, you gotta go.
It's the wrong
You're
you
ruining
are
some recovery. Right?
yeah, we're trying to recover from something here, and
Yeah.
all I'm hearing is Boys to Men music play as you're fucking sitting here, fucking having me share my story, right?
Yeah.
Man, so the community of this,
Yeah.
outside of your program and probably other programs like it. Are there places that they can go to kind of
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
getting better.
okay?
It's getting better for sure. Like compared to when I started in 2018 and now, way more online platforms, online communities. Some of them are free. Some of them are like, 15, 20 bucks a month, whatever. So there's lots of communities online. In person is still pretty difficult. Like there's SAA. There's still nothing really solid for people that are struggling with porn in person. At least what I've found so far. So most of it, you're looking at stuff online.
Look,
Probably
man,
like Zoom meetings and shit, right?
Yeah.
Because there's probably still some shame like walking into a meeting.
It's tougher for sure.
I would think so for sure.
Yeah, like
you know?
even us getting like my book comes with a free workbook, and we've had people do small groups. Like we get pictures sometimes of like, hey, we're going through your small group, or we're going through your book together as a small group.
Yeah.
But actually, like getting churches to like have it is really really tough.
Yeah.
Because if you say like we're going through this book about porn addiction together, if you raise your hand to that, like there's you have to be able to do it privately, and it's just there's a lot of layers to it.
Well, you
that
know
way.
what's crazy is like we just had was it marriage night at our church where couples night. It was couples night, right?
Okay.
Where you get together and it's for people that are married or people that are trying to get married, or even if you're just in a relationship.
Okay.
It's to help you build a relationship and trust. And you would think that they would bring that to the forefront because I bet you that's a big marriage tear downer.
Big time.
And, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's something that I would think most men have watched at least some type of porn.
100%.
1,000%, right?
Yeah.
And you would think that they would bring that in to it, especially like couples night or anything.
They should.
Like that.
I really believe they should.
Yeah.
Well,
because this is something that, as in a marriage,
Yeah,
it
can
you're
ruin a
gonna-
marriage.
It's probably going to come up.
Yeah, exactly.
In every relationship, it's going to come up.
Yeah.
Well, I think, look, if somebody's watching this and struggling with this, create a group,
Yeah.
create a community, like
Yeah.
one that you can show up to in person. Let's start doing that, man. Like what do they say? The opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And I've never seen a stronger community of people than those AA rooms,
Yeah.
NA, CA rooms.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and this seems to me like it should be another room.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
For
getting
sure.
another room out there for
I agree.
this because it's that big of a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a book, you're doing well with it. You're
Yeah.
you're going to Belgium. You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
talking to people in other countries about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like that has to be done.
Yeah.
That has to
Yeah.
like stop doing this online, man. Like go create one. Be
Yeah.
the
Dude,
be the
seriously.
guy that
Yeah.
that goes in there and sit there with one other dude, and then that guy will tell two others.
Yeah.
And then it'll
Bring your
because
friends.
you know what? Like when guys join our program, one of the first things that we hear is, I thought I was the only one.
yeah.
You
For
know?
sure.
And then they see all the other guys, they get on a call, they hear, but so and so who's got the same issue
Yep.
in his marriage that he's got in his, or whatever. And it's like, man, I had no idea. Like I thought I was the
Yeah.
only one. Like that community part is so important.
One of the biggest comments that we get from this
Oh
is
yeah.
when people respond and say, I didn't know that someone else actually did that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that someone that you also did this, and so did I.
Yeah.
I was in shame from it because I thought
Yeah.
I was the only one that hid drugs in my daughter's car seat, or did this, or looked in carpets looking for meth because they ran out, right?
Wow.
And I think that's the same thing whenever other people, that's how you liberate.
Yeah.
Right? When you,
It's actually in the details.
yeah, that's how you let's not hide it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And then
that's
now,
how it has no power over
Yeah.
you.
Exactly.
Like when you're in there and you're
Exactly.
talking about it and you're open about it,
Yeah.
and you're bouncing stuff off of other people,
Yeah.
the power that you gave this thing to take you in,
Yeah.
you're shooing all of that away the
You're flipping the
moment
script on it.
you're completely flipping it around
Yeah.
on its head, and now I'm just another dude in here who struggles along with this other dude and
Yeah.
with that guy and with that guy.
Yeah.
It's like, man, open yourselves up. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know how else to say it.
No,
I mean,
for sure. And it's cool because I think, especially when it's in a community, the initial experience of, okay, I'm talking about it and other people are talking about it and we have an understanding, that's really liberating. But the second part comes afterwards, when everybody still treats you the same afterwards.
right.
Because you always have that in the back of your head. Like, I can put myself out there and they might look at me in the eyes and say, thanks for sharing, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
But if they treat me differently afterwards, then it doesn't matter what they said to my face.
Yeah.
But when you get that community where it's like, man, no, we actually love you more.
Yeah.
Now that I know you more and I actually love you more for it.
Yeah.
That's liberating, dude. That's real freedom.
Yeah.
That's what these rooms do for me
Yeah.
when I go to these rooms.
Yeah.
Like I was telling someone today's my birthday, and
Yeah, happy
I've
birthday.
never
Happy birthday,
gotten more birthday text messages than I did today.
No way.
And I swear to God, probably 40% of them has the person's name and then AA or NA after it, because that's somebody that I met in the room.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And that it's never before have I ever had that many messages saying,
Dang.
hey, happy birthday. And it was, the majority of it, or half of the people, were people that I met in rooms.
Wow.
Right. And it's the same with porn addiction. They should definitely have rooms, and not like I've done I've done meetings on Zoom. I don't get the same thing from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to go into a meeting that way, because fellowshipping is one of the most important things.
So important.
Is going there early, meeting people,
Yeah.
staying after, meeting people,
Yep.
and then hey,
Just having those
let's go
conversations.
have dinner.
Yeah.
let's go fellowship after this.
Yeah. It's so true.
Yeah,
the
'cause-
human connection's being taken away from our world.
Yeah.
Like every day. The
Yeah, tech
actual-
is stealing it,
It's
yeah.
it's taking it away.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I'm not like patting myself on the back here, but when I go Christmas shopping every year, I go to the stores. I'm not going to order anything online unless it's somebody in another state
Sure.
or something. Then I'll do it and have it sent over there. But if you're here and I'm buying gifts for you here, I'm gonna go fight those shitty battles with people who are stressed out.
Yeah.
That human connection's important, man.
Yeah.
Like it
goes a long
super,
way.
super important to have that.
Yeah.
And that's all this is. That's all those meetings are. That's what these meetings should be
Yeah.
if they start getting ramped up. So
Yeah.
I hope if anybody takes anything away from this,
Yeah.
that's what they need to take, is like,
Yeah.
be brave and start a room.
Yeah.
Find a spot, if it's in a park or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
get out and talk about it. And you ruined I was going to say happy birthday to you, man, at the
my
end
bad.
of this thing. But
How dare you bring up your
yeah,
birthday?
yeah,
on
how
your own?
dare
How
you?
selfish of me.
Yeah, dude. What a dick you are.
Selfish recovered addict.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike's birthday.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean,
Happy birthday, dude.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
dude.
How old are you today?
45.
45.
45.
Let's go.
45.
This was my
45.
third sober birthday from alcohol since I was 13,
Okay.
and from drugs from probably when I was 20.
Wow. Oh, dude, that's a
Yeah,
big
so my
deal.
addiction started at 32, like full-fledged every day,
Okay.
but I still dabbled through
Yeah.
the years, right?
Yeah,
Especially
yeah.
on like, we're going out, I'm going to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So I wonder if they have any rooms here, because Austin's a huge recovery.
Is it?
Bro, it's...
The recovery
I will
community
put
here
Austin,
is-
Texas. against any
Anybody.
city in the world.
Get out of here.
Yeah. It's
As
so
far as
big.
recovery,
I had no idea.
it's huge. The recovery community is so big.
Wow.
Everybody knows everybody. And if you don't know somebody, then you know somebody that I know, or vice versa.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Like 2
I'll know
degrees.
your sponsor, or you'll know mine.
Yeah, yeah.
And everybody is just like, it's insane. And that was the biggest thing that I found when I got in the rooms, is how willing people are to help you,
yeah.
and how willing they are to pick up the phone when you call,
Wow.
and how
Such a
willing
big
they
deal.
are to step out for you,
Yeah.
right? And take their time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because that's what we learn in recovery is when you're in yourself, go help another addict.
Yes.
Pay it forward. Go get out of yourself
Get
and
out
go
of
help
yourself.
somebody else.
Yeah,
Right. That's how
find
you
something
stay
bigger than you.
sober.
Yeah.
And give it away. What the promises and everything that you got, everything you learned, give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
I wonder if they have a porn addiction group here.
We
I
need
know
to
they
look
have,
into it.
and if they don't, they should.
Yeah.
And I know it's not hard to start one.
Interesting.
Because there's room. One of the clubs that I go to, Club 101,
Yeah.
they have everything. I
Okay.
mean, Heroin's Anonymous, Crystal Meth Anonymous.
Wow, that's specific.
Cocaine's
eh?
Anonymous. AA. They have, and I want to say that if you want to start your own group, that if there's an hour that nobody uses that club,
Mm-hmm.
that you can rent it for the month, and then just everybody's dues that they contribute to just pays for it.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And if they don't have, I'm going to look into that, because I would absolutely go to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And more people should, especially men, because let's be honest, that's nothing that we really talk about in the workforce or bring up
No.
in meetings or
Not
anything
properly,
like that.
at least.
Right. Yeah, there's absolutely not.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
No, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that about Austin though.
Huge recovery
Huge.
community.
Really interesting.
So big.
Yeah.
We're doing a South by Southwest this next weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone was just telling me that. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have a few guests that are coming in from out of town
Okay.
that are going to come on that
Oh,
are
cool.
only going to be here for that weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we have an event that we're helping sponsor
Oh, sick.
for that's a sober.
Yeah, we're gonna be at an
Look at
event.
you guys.
man.
Yeah.
we're growing up.
You're big
Yeah,
time,
we're getting-
man.
we're getting bigger.
We're
That's
so
amazing.
excited.
What's
Yeah.
the event?
So it is Bart Crow, and it is sober South by event.
Yeah, yeah.
Sober South by is what they're calling it.
Yeah.
Bart Crow is a country singer. It's going to be a country music concert.
Yeah.
And it's a 100% sober event. So it's on March 15th, and
from 7 to 10 at night.
and it's with our friend Sean Livingston from I Am Livingston.
Oh yeah. Cool.
I am Redemption.
And
Redemption, yeah.
I Am Redemption, and our friends at Atomic Souls.
Okay.
We are
That's so cool, man.
so honored to be a part of that.
yeah. That sounds
so-
amazing.
Yeah, I wish you were sticking around, man. You
I
can
know. I wish I knew.
Come do Texas.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
have,
Texas.
they
for
have
real.
a sober event here probably every month.
Okay.
There's a huge. I mean,
I'll have to
there's-
look out for.
Yeah.
I honestly had no idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
good to
big.
know.
Where are you from exactly?
I'm based out of Niagara Falls, Canada.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
And then my wife's Jamaican, so we spend a couple months in the winter in Jamaica usually.
Oh, you poor thing.
Hard life, yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Terrible.
tough
Someone's got to
life.
live it, but
Yeah.
it's not easy, man. Yeah.
Terrible.
That's super dope. Well,
Yeah.
look, man, thank you for coming by and talking
Thanks
about
for- I
this.
really enjoyed this conversation.
This was a
great.
great.
Awesome.
This was amazing, and I learned a lot.
Oh, cool, good.
A lot, like so much more than I did from the first time we made a arbitrary attempt at talking about porn. This was
Go watch that.
So-
Go
yeah.
watch that episode.
yeah.
Oh,
you
these poor
you watch
fuckers.
that episode, you're just like.
These poor fuckers.
You're like, Jesus Louise, you're gonna go crazy. Like,
You'll be yelling at the TV like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." That was just the meth speaking.
yeah. So
No, I definitely got different viewpoints, like things that I never probably thought about.
Yeah.
And, I'm gonna look into see if they have a
Yeah.
group, and if they don't, they absolutely should. I know
Yeah.
there's a Gamblers Anonymous that they just opened up.
There you go. Yeah.
mean, if
so gambling's on the list.
Only thing is, I don't know if they have like most of these meetings, they have steps that you go through.
Okay.
Which I'm sure the 12 steps really goes to life.
You can apply
Right.
the 12 steps
You
to
can
porn
apply
addiction
this
for
12
sure.
steps to anything.
If you can do it for sex addiction, you can do it for porn addiction.
yeah.
yeah, for sure, I can apply.
Just change some wording.
I'm not an addict. I can apply those 12 steps to my life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and in recovery, I really can. So
100%.
just look, man, we were honored to have you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much
my
for coming
pleasure
by.
to be here.
It was great. I want you again to tell the people about your book.
Yeah.
Plug that again. Plug yourself. How people find you.
I'm Sathiya Sam. The book is The Last Relapse. DM me on Instagram and I'll just send you a free copy of the book.
How do you spell your name?
Sathiya. So yeah, if you type that in, it should
you'll
lead you to the
find
right
me.
places.
That's
Yeah.
Kind of a big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be able to find me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Well, great, man. Again, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Enjoy your time here.
Yeah,
in
I will.
Austin. Hang out. Hopefully you get to eat some barbecue. And
I've already eaten a lot of barbecue. I had a big old Texas steak this afternoon.
There you go.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good so far.
all right. Well, we're gonna snap some pictures, and then
Heck yeah.
you're gonna sign our wall.
Yeah,
And
I'm really excited about that. That's
and-
cool.
I always tell this to every one of our people that come in that are so gracious with. You make this look easy in telling your story, and I know it's not. It's very hard. You're telling it to a lot of people. So I appreciate that. And because of that, when you're on that wall, you're part of our family.
Oh,
And if you need us for anything, reach out. And the door is always open to you. The next time you're in Austin,
oh, thanks.
love
dude.
to have you on again. And,
Yeah.
and we can keep talking about this. I'm sure there's another
Yeah.
4 or 5 episodes in this topic.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
I want to
Yeah.
pop one more question.
Sure.
Something I wanted to ask earlier. That was an awesome ending, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, so when they go through your program,
Yeah.
right? Like most people that go through rehab, they go to sober living afterwards.
Yeah.
Where did they just go back to their life, or is there like a sober living where?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so that's kind of a difference between like inpatient, outpatient, rehab versus online.
Right.
Our program's all built online.
Okay.
So for us, what we do is we have a continuation after those 4 months for them to stay plugged into our community. They still have a group call they can attend every week, and we kind of give them ways to basically keep the plumb line.
I got you.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
If you go into like a facility and you can do you can do rehab. They do exist for porn addiction. That's when you would have more of that approach where they're
got
thinking
you.
about how you get acclimated
Makes
back
sense.
into real life.
Because I'm sure like most of them, you said, or most people are married that go there.
Yeah,
Right.
a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of
some
them.
of them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, once it's like, you got to come home. Like I already have trust issues right now.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not going to stay in some house somewhere. Where
Yeah, exactly. Like it is better to be at home for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean sometimes people need to get away, but generally it's good to be at
Yeah.
home.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your end.
Now you can end it again.
Yeah,
dude.
well, thank you again, family, signing wall and stuff. Thanks, dude, for real. Come back anytime.
Yeah.
You need us for anything, we'll come calling.
Thanks, man.
And
Well, this is great.
let's keep this line of communication open.
100%.
And if we can figure out a way to get a room open
Yeah.
here in Austin, Texas,
Yeah,
we'll
That'd be
definitely
amazing.
do a call to arms for you and all the people that struggle with this thing.
Oh, thanks, man. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
If you guys are ever in Canada or Jamaica, hit me up.
Bro,
Doors open.
I want to go to
Jamaica.
both of those
I mean,
places.
let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Jamaica first. All right. Pick Jamaica first.
Yeah,
But-
rightfully so.
Well, look, with that being said, 2 Addicts and a Moron, we're out of here.
Peace.
See ya.
Yeah, that was an awesome episode.
Dude, that was great.